Hello and welcome to PONANT's Uncharted Antarctica. Most of us have at some stage dreamt of travelling to Antarctica. Some of you joining us today will have been lucky enough to see the White Continent already. Today we hope to show you an Antarctica you've never seen before and introduce you to the vessel capable of taking you to parts of the continent very few people have ever been to, the Commandant-Charcot. An Antarctic expedition takes more than a ship. It takes a talented and passionate group of people who first conceive these journeys, then spend, in some cases, years developing a plan to execute an expedition that will leave you in awe. Today, we'll meet two of these people. We'll be joined by Mick Fogg, PONANT's Expedition Manager for Asia Pacific, who'll guide us through the different journeys available to Antarctica on this incredible new vessel. And we'll also meet Nicolas Dubreuil, PONANT's Head of Expeditions and Sustainability and the Project Manager for the Commandant-Charcot. Mick will join us live shortly from his home in Coffs Harbour. Nico is currently in France, so I caught up with him earlier today to speak about the latest news and plans we have for the Commandant-Charcot. I can't wait for you to hear from Nico, so I'll share that interview in just a moment. My name's Craig Farrell, National Business Development Manager at PONANT. We've missed seeing you at our events this year and want to make today as interactive as possible. You'll notice on the right-hand side of your screens, there's a chat box. Here you can ask questions you might have for us. Mick and I will answer as many as possible at the end of the presentation. You can also let us know in the chat box if you've been to Antarctica or just say hi. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's get started. Here's PONANT's Head of Expeditions, Nicolas Dubreuil. Welcome, Nico. Where are you joining us from today?
Hello, I'm in Paris. Unfortunately, I'm not in Greenland now, but because of the COVID, and I'm in Paris, close by Paris, in the forest of Fontainebleau.
Fantastic. Well, we can't thank you enough for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll jump straight into the presentation, and what we want to do is obviously have a look at this beautiful new ship, but we'll start by asking you what your role is at PONANT and also how you got started in the expedition industry.
Okay, so I started in expedition. It was now 30 years ago. I was 18 years old when I started to do ski expedition, dog sledge, and kayak and diving expedition in all the Arctic and the Antarctic. I've done lots of expedition. I've been to the North Pole by ski. I crossed the ice cap of Greenland and so on. And in 2005, I started to work with PONANT. And that was a very big thing for me because I discovered something very, very strong that you cannot do in a small expedition like this with 5-3 people. It's the power of the pedagogic tool that you got on board, that you can teach, you can learn, you can explain many things to the passenger and to bring passenger on very remote place on a safely way. And that was a very big discovery for me. So I started to work with PONANT in 2005 as an expedition leader. And they asked me to be a expedition leader corporate and to work after to be a director of expedition cruise. And now I'm the polar and tropical expert for PONANT and also director of sustainability.
We've got some great shots of you here throughout your career. And I believe this is your house in Greenland, is that right?
Yeah, that's where I was hoping to do this webinar with you. But the problem is that the internet connection is not so good. So
it doesn't look like great Wi-Fi up there, I must admit.
No.
No. And these are your dogs?
Yeah. All my dogs and on dog sledge on the Melville Bay. I mean, for the one who know the place, it's just fantastic. This is Kritsuk, one of my dogs.
Beautiful. One of the main reasons we're here today is to learn about this incredible new vessel that is unique in the PONANT fleet and indeed really unique in the world today, the first ever luxury hybrid polar explorer, Le Commandant-Charcot. And you've been heavily involved in the design of this vessel. Can you tell us firstly what was the concept behind building Le Commandant-Charcot? What drove PONANT to want to build a vessel like this?
Yeah, it's like we cannot call her a ship. I mean, it's really a vessel. This is a shuttle to go to the moon. And what happens is that we we have done lots of expedition in the Arctic, in the Antarctic, and of course, as you do that, and as you got in your DNA this envy to explore the area, to go further, and to continue. When you start to go to got the knowledge, you want to push a little bit more and to go further. And where can you go? And our goal is that, as I explained, the pedagogic tool that the ship is, where can we bring our passenger on the most remote place? I mean, to explain them how strong is the nature and how much we can respect it. We must respect it. And that was the goal of the Commandant-Charcot, is to bring our passenger on a so remote place that they will be on their right size in the nature. And that's the why we start to build the Charcot. And now, of course, there is this story of Jean-Baptiste Charcot.
Yeah,
it's exactly what is for us the right point for the explorer, because Jean-Baptiste Charcot is the most famous French explorer. He is the one who starts to build the French polar expedition, and is known from all the great polar explorer from this age. He is known as the gentleman of the pole. He's the guy who put in place this expedition to go in Arctic, in Antarctic. He overwintered 2 times with scientists on board, but always on a nice way. I mean, he has been lots of champagne and so on. So he's really a good picture of what PONANT wants to offer with the Commandant-Charcot.
Fantastic.
I recommend to you to read some books of Jean-Baptiste Charcot and his story. It's quite it's quite incredible.
Brilliant. I will do that. And what makes Charcot so different to our other expedition vessels? So all of the sister ships, for example, were designed to travel to the Antarctic and Arctic. So what is so special about Commandant-Charcot?
Okay, in fact, it's a very good question, because when you look at this, for example, when you look at this picture, you say, okay, it's a ship. For some people who have been with us, you can say, okay, I have been on the same position, but it's totally not. We keep the nice looking of the ships, but the ship is bigger, stronger, and that's the big point. He's much stronger, and he's built to go deeply in polar area. We see that there is a 270 guests on board, so it's a bigger ship. We will get limited to 200 passenger. But the thing is that he have, and the main interest is that he will be able to navigate on really difficult ice condition, because now the global warming break the ice. So now there is ice everywhere. So it's much more difficult to travel. And just if you can come back on the previous slides, is just to show you the strength of the Commandant-Charcot. The strongest ships that you got now in the Arctic is the 50 years of victory. The 50 let Победы, as say the Russians, is the strongest ships, and we are just below him. He's a nuclear ships, and we are just below, and we will be able to go deeply on the ice. And the picture that you choose just after is very good. I mean, this is the perfect picture for me, because this is where the sister ship stops. You cannot go, even if they have a strong hull, you cannot go deeper on sea ice like this. And if you see carefully on the left side of the picture, you see some tracks, polar bear tracks on the sea ice, and the polar bear, they are going on this. And with the Commandant-Charcot, we will be able to go inside deeply and smoothly, pushing the ice away and going through. So the tricky point is that we will discover an amazing place. And believe me, I spent 20 years of my life living on sea ice, sleeping on sea ice, on tents. It's like to be on the moon. I mean, it's just incredible. And just to give you a small hint, people have been to the North Pole after people have been to the moon. I mean, we discovered this area much after we discovered the moon. So it's just something that it's very difficult to talk about because
incredible.
It's incredible. And we don't have we cannot compare this kind of place.
Well, especially in Australia and New Zealand, where we're coming from, it's hard to imagine at the moment as we get into our summer as well.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there some of the different experiences that people will have. Obviously, we're going a lot further into the ice, and obviously, being able to visit some of these areas as well at different times of the year. So we'll get to see, the Greenlandic people doing different things than what they're doing in the middle of the summer, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And you got the terms. In fact, it's not anymore an expedition ships. It's an exploration ships. We go higher because we go on place where nobody have been. I mean, as I said just before, we'll go on place where there is less people who have been there than people who have been to the moon. It's incredible. And the point that you raised now is critical because we will go on place, when people haven't been. That means that it's also time traveling. Of course, we will see polar bear, because some people get afraid to be on sea ice, and traveling on sea ice, it's like looking on a fire on a chimney. I mean, the landscape is changing so fast, and always different things to see, and to be on this calm area. And there is lots of wildlife. Of course, you will see polar bear. There's lots of polar bear on sea ice. You will see emperor penguins, of course, but there's also lots of fauna around them and living on the sea ice. I seal, walrus, birds, and so on. You see these emperor penguins. We will go to visit them on a rookery that they never seen any human. I mean, we know that there is rookery because scientists observe them from a satellite picture, but they're never seen. So that's why also, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure, that's why scientists will come on board to study them, and will bring them on place where nobody have been before.
Incredible. And so, as well as going further, and we've got a shot there of the Ross Sea, one of the itineraries that Mick will speak a little bit about later, but as well as travelling further, there's some exceptional opportunities to experience these destinations off the ship as well. So when you travel to Antarctica or the Arctic on any PONANT expedition, our guests will expect, obviously, Zodiac cruising, kayaking, hiking and landings. But on Charcot, we've got a whole range of new experiences, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. Because we will, we will be on a different environment. So we need different things. I mean, we won't go to the North Pole straight away and back and forth, and that's it. I mean, each day we will stop on the ice, and we'll have to have new tools like a balloon to explore. I mean, the sea ice from 50 meters from the sky. We will also have snowmobiles to go on sea ice. And the things for me, and that's the things that you talked just some minutes ago, we will meet Greenlandic people, Inuit people on their real time, on sea ice where they are living. I mean, when you go to Greenland in June, July, August, you see the Greenland. I mean, it is only 3 months per year like this. The other months, you got sea ice and people traveling on sea ice. So we'll meet them, we'll do dog sledge, and we are working to have dogs on board also, and to do dog sledging. So we put on place different activities to emphasize and to show you what is sea ice and how we can explore the Arctic area. The diving also, we will do polar diving. It's for people who have already experienced diving in -2 degree water. It's no joke.
Yeah.
But the thing is that for people who doing, in Australia, some diving, you will be very surprised to dive in the Arctic and Antarctic area, because you will see that, outside everything is blue and white and black, and when you dive under the sea, everything is colorful. It's crazy, and so much wildlife but it's for experienced people. And the things that you show also on the right side of the slides, this is the hovercraft. And that's very useful. I think you got some in Australia also to go on swamp and so on. But that will be the only instrument who will be able to take us on place where, there is lots of sea ice, but there is some hole, some cracks and so on, and we'll be able to travel on all these areas.
Brilliant, because I'm assuming the Zodiacs won't work so well on the ice, right?
Yeah, it's you have to pull them.
Yeah. And can you tell us now, what stage of the build are we at now? So obviously we're launching next year, but can you talk us through what stage we're at right now?
Yeah, right now we are almost finished, and the ship is in Norway, in Sovik, and they are finishing all the insides, all the cabins and so on. So is almost ready to go. As you see on the slides, we finished to put the azipods. It's a very important tool for us. The action of the azipods allow us to go forward and backwards on the ice. That means that we will be able to escape from any conditions, and on the softest way. We won't break everything and go and fight with the ice. The azipods, they are the tools to escape the ice and go smoothly on the other side. And we are able to go through like a wall of 11 meters of ice with this. Slowly, but we are able to escape.
And you must take enormous pride as someone who's been involved in the project from day one, even before we started the build, to see it so close to being finished now.
Yeah, we are just focusing on it, and it's crazy. Yeah.
On the home straight. And one of the other things that's really important to PONANT as a company, and even specifically to Charcot, is sustainability. So can you talk us through some of the measures that are on board to make sure we minimize our impact on some of these really obviously pristine parts of the planet?
Yeah, that was, the first day we talked about the Charcot, that was the question. We got two things. The first one is the sustainability. It's not possible for us to build a ship to go on such place without taking the last technology to be sustainable. That's why we use LNG, the gas. That's why we use the battery also to reduce the consumption of gas. That's why we use the most powerful and advanced system for wastewater treatment, and also for managing the waste. So we put lots of money and lots of technology to have the best things to, as you say, minimize our impact. That was not a question. And also that's the hardware part of the sustainability. But the things also, we have a software part of the sustainability, which was to build our itinerary. We have done some scouting. We have checked with the populations, the natives, find the way to go to minimize our impact. What we study the ice to find the easiest way to go, where we will spend less gas, and where we will be able to avoid any, critical place for animals, and so on, to be very respectful and to minimize totally our impact. And that was the first point. And the second point, the science part. And it wasn't for us possible to build a ship to go in these remote areas without bringing scientific on board. And we always do that with our sister ships, but here we raise the level. We build the ship for science. We build place for them. We have a wet laboratory on board. We have a dry laboratory. We have a computer room to manage the data. We have a place where the scientists will be able to do their lecture, and where they will manage. We will manage two things of science. I don't know exactly in Australia if you have this separation between these two things, but in France it's very strong. We have citizen science, so we will be able to bring our passenger to with them, to manage to do some science with them, to explain them, to do these pedagogic tools, and we will have a place to bring, let's say, the academic science. So we will have very strong science that will be very useful. We have a scientific committee in PONANT to manage to choose which program we will manage. So we will help them to bring them here, and also they will be able and to do something very important for them is to also to talk about their science, and they will be able to do that. And we are very happy of all this scientific program that we manage now. And the passenger, I mean, yeah, I saw that for the passenger, they will be involved. They will be on the same place. They will be with the scientists, so they will see when the scientists they put a beacon, and even the scientists they ask us that, oh yes, we want to do some what they call that CI station. And say, but we have to drill lots of hole, and can you be part of that? And so if the passenger wants, they will be able to help the scientists and to drill some holes on the ice.
I think there'll be plenty of our guests putting their hands up to get involved in that sort of research. That's an incredible opportunity. And what an incredible opportunity it's been, Nico, to have you join us all the way from Paris today. We can't thank you enough for joining us. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of the APAC office, but also all of our viewers watching today. We'll hopefully see you on board Commandant-Charcot very, very soon. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you. Come on.
Thanks, Nico.
Thank you to you.
Okay, I'm back live now, and we'll have a quick look at the interior design of Le Commandant-Charcot, because as well as being a technically state-of-the-art vessel and the strongest ever built for tourism and science, with Le Commandant-Charcot, we haven't compromised on the style, comfort and luxury that PONANT is renowned for. When you step on board, you'll be greeted with a lobby and reception area sitting below a stunning 4-story atrium. There'll be a number of intimate and larger common areas to relax in after a busy day of exploring. And there's a full-size theatre for briefings, lectures and evening entertainment. Meals will be served in one of the restaurants. There's 24-hour room service, and light meals will also be available in the main lounge. Wellbeing is also paramount. There's an outdoor pool and indoor pool on deck 9, where the spa, fitness centre and panoramic lounge are also located. A viewing deck runs around the entirety of deck 5, which can be used also for exercise or to take advantage of the unparalleled 360-degree views. All staterooms have their own private balcony, and the choice of accommodation includes 31 larger suites. There are 4 2-story duplex suites at the rear of the ship, and above those sits a breathtaking 125 square metre owner's suite, which opens out to a 122 square metre private terrace with its own jacuzzi. Now it's time to have a look at where Le Commandant-Charcot is headed during her inaugural season in Antarctica. And to do this, we're bringing in our expedition manager for the Asia Pacific, Mick Fogg. Welcome, Mick. And firstly, wasn't that great to hear from Nico?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. It's always a great pleasure to hear from Nico. He's such an inspirational gentleman, and to have the brains of his behind the build of Charcot and the concept is amazing. And of course, he has a lovely connection with the Arctic. So he knows the people there very well and has worked in tune with that side of it, just as we've got people working in Antarctica to ensure the Charcot is going to be doing the best itineraries there as well.
Absolutely. And it's a good time to point out, because I was keeping an eye on a lot of the comments that were coming through during that session, and a lot of comments about the amount of polar bears we showed, including the one behind me. But they are absolutely correct, our guest, that they will not find polar bears in Antarctica, although it's 2021, and it's been a very strange year in 2020, so you never know, do you?
Absolutely, mate. You've got no idea what could happen in the next 12 months.
Exactly. And a lot of our viewers today, Mick, will recognise you more so in a short sleeve shirt and sunscreen operating our tropical expeditions up in the Kimberley and Papua New Guinea and those sorts of areas. But you've also led expeditions to the Arctic and Antarctica. So we'd love to hear from you what makes Antarctica so special.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Yeah, very privileged to have spent time in Antarctica as well. But, you know, I have to draw the line somewhere, mate. I can't go on every expedition around the planet as much as I'd love to. You know, I've got to actually spend time at home and work on my other aspects of my real job. I know I don't get any sympathy from our listeners out there, but, you know, if I could, I would spend seasons in Antarctica. It's one of the most remarkable places. And, you know, the sheer size and scale of everything is breathtaking. It really is that last great frontier. And for me, there's a sense of serenity and fragility you get in Antarctica that you don't get anywhere else. And you really do accept the fact that you're such a privileged person to be able to go there. And again, for me, it's the Zodiacs. You know, Zodiacs are the key to expedition cruising and everywhere across the planet. And they really come into their own in Antarctica when you're out there in amongst the ice floes, not really knowing what you're going to come across, what you're going to see, what experiences you're going to have on a day-to-day basis. And for photographers, there's just so many opportunities. Every corner you turn is another photograph that can be taken, another bit of wildlife to be seen. It really is remarkable.
Brilliant. And I thank you for contributing to your photographs today as well. So all the ones we're looking at the moment are all your pictures, so they're exceptional.
Thank you very much, Craig. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, as they say, and the more often you go to Antarctica, the more opportunity you have to be in that situation, you know. I think the big thing for me with Antarctica is the relics of that heroic age of Antarctic exploration, you know, those great names, Amundsen, Scott, Shackleton, you know, they're remarkable people. To think of the difficulty they put up with and the hardships they endured, and we get to see that firsthand when we visit those areas.
Yeah, and this is Shackleton's Hut, obviously a highlight for anyone who's lucky enough to visit this area, but I believe it holds a special significance for you.
Well, I was hoping you weren't actually going to bring that up, Craig, but see how we go. Yeah, look, Shackleton was a childhood hero of mine. I always enjoyed reading about him, and never actually thought as an adult I'd ever get to go to any of his huts down in Antarctica, but managed to do that. And to make it extra special, I did in fact propose to my wife in Shackleton's Hut in 2010. It was a spectacular day, and I know some of the people out there watching us today were there on that voyage as well, and it really was a beautiful day in Antarctica.
Brilliant. You don't do things by halves, do you? So what we're going to do now is have a look specifically at some of the expeditions available to Antarctica at the end of 2021 and into 2022. And what a start this one is. So if Antarctica wasn't enough, this one comes with the added bonus of being in the only place on the planet where the total solar eclipse is going to be 100% visible next year.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it, to think those lovely things are coinciding in our inaugural year in Antarctica with Commandant-Charcot. I mean, we've obviously got a lot of experience down there with our sister ships, but here we're going to go further than you can go. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say then you can go than people have gone before. And here we go deep into the Weddell Sea along the beautiful Larsen ice shelf, where you have that great opportunity to experience those fantastic tabular icebergs along that great ice shelf there. So below the Antarctic Circle, heading out in our Zodiacs to see what we can come across on those ice flows, photograph some of that great wildlife. And, you know, Zodiacs are a great way of doing that, but also too, we have kayaking. So you can undertake kayaking on Commandant-Charcot as you can on our sister ships, weather permitting. I personally haven't been lucky enough to do any kayaking, but I do believe, Craig, that you're actually somewhere in that photo.
I'm on the far left there. Mick was a little bit self-indulgent of me to put that one in there, but it is one of those experiences that you'll never forget. I think whenever you go on any holiday to anywhere, you might come back with one or two experiences that you'll remember forever. And I felt, you know, I was lucky enough to do Antarctica earlier this year, but I felt there was one or two of those experiences every day where you just think to yourself, I'll never forget this moment. And kayaking down in the Weddell Sea was certainly one of those.
Oh, I can imagine, Craig, the serenity, you know, being so small in a landscape that's so large would just be a remarkable experience. And I am actually jealous, mate.
Well, we'll put that down as the first and only time I've got one up on you. And here's our next one, and this is brilliant. You know, a lot of most expeditions that go to Antarctica obviously visit the Antarctic Peninsula. Very few journey beyond the Antarctic Circle, but this is what makes Charcot so incredible, is that every single place on this expedition is beyond, well beyond the Antarctic Circle.
Yeah, exactly, Craig. It's like Nico mentioned, you know, this vessel is purpose-built for going far and beyond up where other vessels have gone, and also being able to go at different times of the year. Imagine being able to go all on that western edge of the Antarctic Peninsula, below the Antarctic Circle, down there to areas like Peter First Island and Charcot Island itself, which is, you know, the same name as the ship. We named our ship after the Commandant-Charcot, but Charcot Island is not named after him. He's such a gentleman, you know, the gentleman of the poles, and a gentleman would never name a place after himself. So despite the reckonings of his crew who wanted him to name it after himself, he actually accommodated them by naming it after his father. So it's a nice little quirk of history there we see. But we also get to look for the emperor penguins down in that part of the world. And as Nico mentioned, some of the colonies down there, scientists have never even seen. They've only seen them from space. And that really is quite a remarkable thing. And we have that opportunity to go there and find some of those colonies, and we'll have the scientists on board who will be able to see them for the first time as well.
Brilliant. And that particular itinerary is at Christmas next year. So talk about a white Christmas, just to add an extra special end to 2021.
Absolutely.
And next we've got the Weddell Sea and Larsen Ice Shelf, areas that you've covered a little bit with the solar eclipse itinerary, but this one's over New Year's, so I personally couldn't think of a better way to ring in the new year by a voyage like this.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. I mean, I've been lucky enough to spend both Christmas and New Year in Antarctica, and it's a wonderful experience. And again, to go so far south, and that's the key with these itineraries. You're going in deep into the Weddell Sea, where you've got those spectacular tabular icebergs. I know I've mentioned it before, but they really are breathtaking. You know, in amongst those ice flows where your Zodiac is just dwarfed by the sheer size and scale of what we're seeing in those areas. So really is remarkable. Because January is a good time for all the little hatchling penguins and things like that. So the activity is increasing through January for the wildlife there. And of course, wherever you've got hatchling penguins, you're always going to have these guys hanging around. So the leopard seals, good opportunity to get a glimpse of those at that time of the year. Great.
Now, Mick, the Ross Sea. So this is considered, the Ross Sea, as the last ocean, the last intact marine ecosystem on the planet. And on this expedition, we're really following in the footsteps of some of those early explorers that you mentioned earlier, aren't we?
We definitely are, Craig. You know, it's remarkable coming down inside the peninsula there and going across Bellingshausen Sea, the Amundsen Sea, and following the footsteps of the great explorers. You know, going across to Whale Bay, where Amundsen started his trek towards the South Pole from, and of course coming into the Ross Sea, the southernmost sea on the planet, named after James Clark Ross. Just forgot him for a sec there. Named after him in Ross Island, and that's the base of Shackleton and Scott as well. And to think you're only 320 kilometres from the South Pole when you're at that far at the Ross Sea. But of course, that 320 kilometres, very, very difficult to progress, and struggled to get there, Scott. Got back halfway, didn't quite make it all the way. And of course, Amundsen won the race in 1911, 1912. And then on top of that, apart from all that history, you've just got the magnificent wildlife as well that is there in the frozen continent.
Brilliant. And lastly, we've got this beautiful itinerary, and this one showcases one of the areas that a lot of people would have as one of, if not the highlights of an Antarctic expedition, which is South Georgia.
Yes, of course. Yeah, the beautiful wildlife of South Georgia, you know, one of the most amazing places for photography on our planet, along with Macquarie Island. There's a lot of parallels between the two. And this voyage, you know, takes in the aspects of South Georgia, the South Shetland Islands, and also the best of the northern Antarctic Peninsula, as well as getting down deeper into the Weddell Sea. So, you know, it really has got everything there. And, you know, if you've been to Antarctica before, not a bad option.
It's a good point you raise, actually, in terms of if you've been to Antarctica before. We often consider it as a once-in-a-lifetime destination or once-in-a-lifetime trip. But what we're finding with Commandant-Charcot is that a lot of people that are booking Charcot have actually done Antarctica before with us on one of the sister ships, because we're opening up those new areas and also new times of the year to visit as well.
Yeah, look, exactly what Nico said. He called it time traveling. We actually get to go to Antarctica at a different time of the year. Everyone defines this Antarctic season, but it's defined by vessel capabilities. We're now taking the Antarctic season to get an opportunity to see it either side at a different time of the year. And for naturalists like myself, that's awfully exciting to be able to get down there at a different time.
And we'll announce the winners in the follow-up email tomorrow, as with hundreds of responses coming through, I'll need the team's help to make sure we choose the correct answer. So if everyone has familiarised yourself with the chat box again now, and I've seen lots and lots of questions and comments coming through, so I think most people have got a handle on that now. So our first question, in what country is Le Commandant-Charcot currently undergoing her final fit-out?
Good question. I hope they were listening, Craig.
You're not allowed to answer that, Mick. In what country is Le Commandant-Charcot currently undergoing her final fit-out?
Lots of correct answers coming through.
There are? Okay, perfect. Oh, yeah, there are. Okay, we'll move on to question number 2 now. The next question is, in which part of Antarctica will guests be able to view the total solar eclipse in 2021? You can keep an eye on the chat box there for me, Mick, to let me know when there's a few correct answers come through.
We're still getting lots from the last one. Yep, now they're all coming through, and a lot of them are correct.
Perfect. Okay, and we'll move on to our third and final question, and then we'll get on to some questions for you, Mick, about the presentation today and about Antarctica in general. So question number 3, this is to win the third $1,000 PONANT voucher to use towards your next PONANT expedition. Question 3 is, who was Charcot Island named after? And this will test whether they were listening to you as well as just Nico, Mick.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful piece of history. And as I said, the gentleman of the polls.
That's it.
He would too, perfect. So we've got the correct answers coming through. They were listening.
Great. That's always a relief. All right, so we'll move on now to our Q&A. So this is where we'll answer some questions that have come through during the presentation this afternoon. And we've got a few that have been sent through here. The first one is, will Le Commandant-Charcot go to the sub-Antarctic islands? Nick, I'll let you answer that one.
Well, depending on which itinerary it's on, Craig, obviously it depends what you consider the sub-Antarctic, so South Georgia.
I think we're talking sub-Antarctics as in the New Zealand and Tassie.
Oh, okay, so we're talking about in Australia and New Zealand sub-Antarctic islands.
Okay.
2022 itinerary at the moment doesn't feature the sub-Antarctic islands. Obviously does the South Shetlands, the South Orkneys and South Georgia. But you never know into the future where she's going to end up. She could come back into Australia to do trips down into the Ross Sea from here or into Commonwealth Bay.
Brilliant. You never know what's going to happen, right? And
absolutely right.
Question number 2 is a great one for you. Is there a better time or is there a best time for photographers to go to Antarctica?
Oh, is there a best time for photographers to go to Antarctica? I actually think probably later in the season, as you're starting to come into the sunsets, because your light length's getting longer and longer, and you get those beautiful sceneries changing throughout the day. So I'd be going, February, March time, something around there.
That early April one, for example, where you go to get those sunrises and sunsets, but also South Georgia. So if you're into wildlife photography, then that would be a fantastic option.
Absolutely.
And the third one, which types of whales can you see in Antarctica? So I know I can answer one of these, but
haven't got enough fingers to count them all. So
right. Yeah,
humpbacks, you see so many different varieties of them, orcas, multiple different ones. There's so many varieties of whales to see.
We saw a minke whale down there, but we didn't see any blue whales, but it's possible if you're lucky. There's a lot.
Absolutely.
And number 4, so we've got a couple more questions. And if we haven't had time to address all of the questions that have come through, which I can guarantee we haven't, we will follow up those questions tomorrow as well. So our team in Sydney are going to follow up those questions. Our second last question, our 4th one, when's the best time to see penguin chicks?
Penguin chicks. So obviously the king penguins have an extended breeding season. Your Gen 2s and Adelies are quite shorter, so you're looking at around January, February. If you want to see the little furry ones, early January is probably your best time to see the little chicks.
Brilliant. And finally, which is the best itinerary to retrace Shackleton's expedition?
On these ones, so you're retracing Shackleton's expedition coming down, so you want to go to obviously to South Georgia to see his grave. So I'd be thinking late in April would be the one to go. Because if you're going to do anything revolving Shackleton, you should go and see his grave.
Brilliant. Pay your respects there as we
Absolutely.
So, Mick, that brings us to the end of our Uncharted Antarctica event. And honestly, thank you for being with us today. We really couldn't have been in better hands with yourself and also Nico. And I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people to turn their Antarctic dreams into a reality. We'll follow up, as I mentioned, with an email where you can watch recordings of the presentation, or a recording of the presentation. And details of our upcoming Antarctic expeditions will include details of that special offer we had today, and also announce the winners from the questions today as well. A huge thank you to everyone who's joined us today, particularly those, and I've noticed there's a lot of comments on there, a lot of people have joined us from South Australia today. So we're all thinking of our South Australian friends, and the next week or two might be tough being locked up, but we're all thinking of you. Thanks to everyone who joined us today, and we honestly can't wait to welcome you on board Le Commandant-Charcot and showcase this incredible part of the world. Thanks again, Mick.
Thanks, Craig. It's always a pleasure to join you, mate. I'd love to be able to do it in person and also join our guests in person at a regular roadshow, but this is the next best thing, mate. Always a pleasure to work with a professional like yourself.
Thanks, mate. Hopefully next year we're back seeing people face-to-face.
Absolutely. Thanks, you, Craig.
Everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for everyone joining us.